Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my history of the $1 notes. Yes, this is a top 10 list, and thanks for turning into another top 10 list. This is the continuation of last week's top 10. Last week's top 10, we started off in 1863, roughly, which is 100 years prior to the introduction of the current notes that we use today. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue off there. And we'll just jump right in. We're going to go back to 1923. And number 10 this week, this is a 1923 $1 silver certificate. This is the last large size silver certificate you can get. Because of that, they were quite popular. You can find these fairly cheap. You can usually find these well under $100, sometimes under $50 in rougher shape. Really cool note, especially when you see the size of the note compared to a regular $1 bill. It's just kind of neat. The first time I ever saw one of these, I thought it was fake money. I thought it was just play money because it was so big. But yeah, this is the 1923 $1 silver certificate. Once again, the last large size note. That one is number 10 on the list. Number 9 is a dead ringer for that note. This one's the 1923 $1 legal tender. Now, once again, a silver certificate that was backed by silver. There was 1 ounce of silver, or one silver dollar, I should say, in the treasury representing all of the silver certificates in circulation. A legal tender note is usually designated by a red seal, and the legal tender means there is a law passed that requires the government to have so much money in circulation. So a legal tender has value because a law was passed saying so. A silver certificate had value because there was silver backing the note. So this one has the same back as the silver certificate, much of the same design. The only difference pretty much is the color of the seals. And even though that's the only difference, and actually it looks like the seals themselves look the same, even though one is the same, it's just a different color. When we check every aspect, that's it. The color is the only difference. They are still two different notes because this was backed by silver and this wasn't. So yeah, two different types of notes, even though they do look virtually identical. So that's number 9, the legal tender. Number 8, with the onset of the Great Depression and everything else, the government decided to shrink the size of our money. By reducing the money by a third in size, they save a third on paper and a third on ink. Imagine that, the government trying to save money. This is the 1928 silver certificate. So once again, still backed by silver, but of course now you've got a note that is so much smaller. And it's the size that we're used to seeing today. Maybe they'll reduce our money even smaller, who knows? Anyway, the 1928 silver certificate has the gigantic number 1 here. It has a blue seal on this side. Blue seal, of course, representing silver certificate. And this particular one is also known as a funny back. And the reason for that is, well, we'll get into that a little bit later. What I will tell you about this back is that around the same time, a game was created called Monopoly. And Monopoly, when they created their money, used this back design as the idea for their money. They wanted the Monopoly money to look very similar to our current money that was circulating. So that's why this design and Monopoly money are so entangled. All right, so that one is number 8. Number 7. Around the same time, they did a $1 legal tender like this, and I've been told that roughly 8,000 of these made it into circulation at the time, but the rest of the notes ended up being distributed through Puerto Rico to help with currency problems there. So most of these you're going to find were from Puerto Rico, and because of the climate, not a lot of these survived. They're just, these are paper. Well, I don't want to say they're paper. They're technically cloth. But because of the humidity, you get a lot of discoloring on these notes. The back is the same. It's still the funny back. But yeah, the red seal legal tenders, or otherwise known as United States notes, those terms are interchangeable. These are tough to find and a lot more expensive than the silver certificates. But seeing that red seal like that and the red serial numbers, it's definitely a note that's got to be in the list and in your collection. That one is number 7, 10987. Number 6. This is a 1934 $1 silver certificate. And with this one, as you can see, compared to the 1928, they switched the sides of the seal from here to here. And where the seal was, they put this giant numeral. And to me, that blue numeral is so cool. That's what makes the note. The 1, the 5, and the 10 all have that bright blue numeral there. Such an impressive note. Just to see this series together is really neat. To get these in good condition are also quite affordable. In average condition, in a grade 20, you can probably buy the whole series for $100. If you wanted to get them a little bit nicer, maybe double that. And it still has the funny back design on the back. So now we're from 1928 to 1934 with the funny back design. I just kind of want to plant that little seed there. So that one is number 6, 10, 9, 8, 7, number 6. Number 5. By 1935, they came out with this design. And this design, they made the seal smaller. And unfortunately, they took the 1 and made it gray instead of that bright blue. They also changed the back to a very familiar looking back. The thing is that with this design, they kept this design in play from 1935 all the way through the 1957 series, which actually ran, you can still find these today if you get real lucky, which means for a period of 70 years, this is what the back looked like, which means every once in a while you would find one of these in a strap. And like I said, over the course of 50 years, you would think this back looked kind of funny compared to this back. That's why this back got the nickname the funny back, because these only existed from 1928 to 1934. That's 6 years. 6 years, 2 versions at that. By 1935, that's what we switched to. So that is the funny back compared to the back we have today. That is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That's number 5. Number 4. Because of World War II, they did print some emergency currency that eventually did make it into circulation. These were the Hawaii notes, and this particular one happens to be a star. That's why it's in such rough shape. But it has the Hawaii overprint here, and here it has a brown seal, brown serial numbers. It's just cool to see a star, because these are rare. The back of the note does have Hawaii in the dark brown or dark black overprint there. These were printed and distributed throughout Hawaii just in case Japan ever invaded Hawaii and tried to take over the banks. With this being the circulating currency, the federal government could simply say these notes are no longer valid, and all the money that would have been taken would become useless. So it was a huge deterrent to prevent an invasion of Hawaii. That just made the whole economy version of Hawaii so much better, having the individual currency that could be canceled. So these ended up circulating as people came home. You can find these pretty easy, and I considered it a different version of the one. So that one's number 4. Number 3, on the other side of the world, this was a North Africa $1 bill, and this was essentially the military currency that was used in Europe and North Africa. It had a yellow seal on it with blue serial numbers, and the back did not have an overprint, so it does look exactly like the notes that you would see. The purpose behind it was the same. If money ever fell into the wrong hands, anything that has the yellow overprint could easily be dismissed. And once again, it just stopped the threat of people targeting the money. This one also happens to be a star, so that makes it just yet another cool note. That one is number 3. Number 2 gets us to the notes that we have in our pocket right now. These went from 1963 to in your pocket today. So yeah, no changes here. Everybody's familiar with this. Nothing else to say. That's number 9. And finally, number 1 this week, I wanted to include this. This is one of the web notes. Even though it looks just like the current notes that we have, this was an experimental note. They did it on an experimental press called a web-fed press, which is how they print newspaper. So if you ever imagine a newspaper being printed, it's that kind of continuous press. Instead of using sheets, they use rolls of paper, so there weren't locations on the sheets because that wasn't the way it was done. There's only a small number here for the plate number, and then on the back they move the plate number from here to here. So even though the note is the same, technically it's completely different. They used a completely different print process for it. They did their best to make it look like the notes that were in our pocket today, but it is a completely different note. So that's it. That's the history of the $1 bills and how it's changed since roughly 1863. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.